let's tackle into this Georgia at home taking on Kentucky at a primetime slot tomorrow. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. ESPN. Georgia's a 14-point favorite. Both these teams are coming into this game undefeated. I'll tell you what, this is a game right now where this is the game where if Georgia is not careful, this could be that one where they fall into a hole very fast, because Kentucky has proven into these couple of weeks. Do I still believe in Kentucky? I think they're about as good as they were last year. I think we now know what kind of team Kentucky is going to be year in and year out. They're going to lean on the run and ask their quarterback not to do too much or make too many mistakes. And their running back they had last week that went for over like 200 and something rushing yards on almost like 14 carries. I'm telling you now, if they get the confidence early in this game, Georgia could be in trouble. Now, Georgia has the better team. I'm going to tell you that right now. And thank goodness somebody on the Georgia staff and Carson Beck realized you still got Brock Bowers on this team. Please, right. In my opinion, Brock Bowers is the best player in college football. I don't think nobody can cover him. I think you can put him anywhere on the field. You can't tackle him, not one-on-one. I think he's the best player on this field in this game also. You got to find ways to get him the ball. Now, going back through Kentucky really is another one of those teams, just like Missouri, where you haven't played anybody at this to this level. And I think being on the road, going to Georgia is going to be a very tall task. That crowd is going to be in there. They're going to be packed. They're going to be loud. And I think that's going to be a lot of what will get Georgia the win in this game. I'm going Georgia in this game. I tell you what, though, Devin Leary is somebody who's been in these big moments on the road. When he was at NC State, he went on the road to Clemson and almost took down a Clemson team. So he's been in these spots where he's had to go up against a very tough crowd and a tough defense. But it's just, I don't know if Kentucky has enough playmakers to get this game in their win column. So that's why I'm going Georgia in this one.
I think this right here is Kentucky's best chance to do it. The last time Kentucky beat Georgia was going all the way back, maybe before I was even a college football fan, going back to 2009. That's a long, long, long time ago for these Kentucky fans to be reeling something. If this game was at home for Kentucky, yes, I would be so much more hyped for this Saturday matchup. But going to Georgia, to me, is going to be something that I don't think Kentucky has the overall skill set to keep up with. The first 2 quarters of this game is going to matter so much for Kentucky. Can you start off fast? Because Georgia has shown that they can start slow. Now, I don't think that Georgia is going to start slow. I think coming off of that fourth quarter game against Auburn was that wake-up call for Georgia's offense and Carson Beck. And I think they can steamroll through Kentucky. I think they can win by at least, like this figure says, 14 points. But to me, the keys of the fact is going to be Kentucky's run game versus Georgia's defense. I don't think that Devin Leary is the quarterback that can go ahead and throw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and beat Georgia at Georgia. I just don't see that in him. But to me, their running back has shown that he can be a workhorse guy. Can you take the pressure off of Devin Leary in the aspects of running the ball? Last week against Florida, this guy put up sensational numbers. Go look at the highlight tape. Go look at the film of that game. Can you come into Georgia and do the same thing? It was to be determined. But I got Georgia by 17 points in this game, pulling away in the fourth quarter, and this is going to be overall too much for Kentucky to handle.
So I think Georgia is going to win this game. If you go back I remember watching the Georgia-Kentucky game last year when Georgia was a really good team at this point in time in the season. Kentucky put together 2 drives that were over 10 minutes long and scored touchdowns against Georgia. They had the right recipe. What they said they're going to do is we're going to hold the ball for as long as we possibly can. We're going to score. We're going to take the ball out of your hands. They did that successfully in the first half. What does Georgia do? Same thing they're doing this year. They make adjustments at halftime. They come out and they do what Georgia does, and they start, kicking butt in the second half. Now, the problem is this is not last year's Georgia team. Right. So if Kentucky comes out and has similar results to what they had last year and even the year before when they got on top of Georgia early, Georgia may not be able to recover. Okay. Georgia's got, Kentucky's got the quarterback, the running back, and the receiver, and the defense to get it done. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. Like I said, Drew, it ain't happened since 2009. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I'm very interested to see how it plays out. It's going to be closer than everyone thinks. I got Georgia by 10.
My big question about this, I want to ask this question to both of y'all is, do y'all feel like Georgia is a complete team as far as talent, but they just kind of in a Cinderella, atmosphere of having 2 championships on behind them? Or do you feel like this team is truly just doesn't have it to win it again? Because I think, to me, just to answer my own question real quick before y'all go, I think Georgia by the next 4 weeks is going to be the Georgia from last year. That's what I see glimpses of it. I just haven't seen them put together a full game. To me, I think that Kirby Smart can get these guys rolling closer till we get to the SEC championship, closer we get to the playoffs. That motivation, that spark is going to come from them. I think they can get it done. This right here is going to be a huge game for them. What do y'all think?
So they do not have what they had last year at quarterback. They do not have what they had last year on the defensive line. Those are serious problems. So to answer your question, no, they're not the same team. They also have the pressure of trying to repeat. It's obvious that Kirby Smart is having a hard time keeping this team even away from a jail. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like these kids, they would get in trouble all spring camp. You know what I'm saying? They was in the news. This is not the last 2 years Georgia teams in a lot of areas, and it's going to end up biting them before it's over with.
I do think they have the talent still on this roster to be good. And like I said, and like I mentioned before, I don't know what it is. And I think I mentioned this in the other video about the top 4 teams in the country. To me, it just seems like they're not motivated like they were last season. The last 2 years, the defensive line, everybody on the team, they were like, hey, we want to prove, like, hey, you don't belong on the same field as us. And they took that in and week out to everybody they played. And losing Stetson Bennett, who I don't think, and to this day, I don't think was a very tremendously talented quarterback. I just think he was a system quarterback who knew the playbook in and out. I think that you could sit here and ask him any question about any type of situation that offense could be in, and without a second thought, he knew what to do in that offense. And I think the transition from him to Carson Beck has a lot to do with why this team is struggling also. And the fact that you're going into it where you have a new offensive coordinator, which is why maybe some of these point totals in the first half are a little shaky. I don't believe in Mike Bobo at all. I've seen him personally at South Carolina. You know, when he's gone over to Auburn, he hadn't looked good over there. But it's just something about it. I think they have the talent to still do it. And like Drew, like you said, maybe over these next couple of weeks, they'll start to wake up and feel like, hey, we see the finish line now. We see the SEC championship game coming up. Now let's get the ball rolling. But right now, maybe they're just going through the motions. But I do think they still have the talent. I still think they have the capability of being that dominant team again. It's just we just have not seen it yet.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked this question is because for Georgia, their lull period is done. The rest of their season is going to be jam-packed in teams that I feel like have the same type of talent that can beat them. I think they're favored in the schedule, as in Missouri has to come to them, Ole Miss has to come to Georgia. But when they go to Tennessee, Lord have mercy, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that game right there. And I think Georgia understood going to Auburn is we got to be able to play in these big atmosphere type stadiums. This is going to be very, very interesting. But I think the quarterback comparison between Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck is confidence. The fourth quarter against Auburn, I think he found that confidence he needed to lead this team. That's why I think tomorrow they're going to steamroll from the start of the game. I think they're going to be ready to go for Kentucky. I got Georgia as being a huge, huge team going in late in the season, but I think it just gets more exciting for them. I think it's all about excitement. You look at who they started this year off with, UT Martin, Ball State, with just 2 games where it's like, we don't even have to really show up for this game to get the dub. South Carolina was a game where they had, okay, cool, we got to show up, but that was a second half one. And to me, Auburn was a true second half. Y'all knew that y'all were going to have big-time games. Georgia, I want to see them in the playoffs. I really do. I'm not going to say that. I would love to see Georgia actually three-peat just because I haven't seen it in my lifetime. But overall, I don't think they have the expectations to overall fall short. Kirby Smart's going to have these boys ready to play. So that's my only aspect of it. I know it's a game of the week, so we can dive a little bit more deeper. But Georgia, we got to keep our eye close on them boys, man. Close on them.